I'm Zaccura and welcome back to my channel. And woohoo! We've gotten through week 2 of Inktober. How's everyone holding up? Let me know in the comments. So for this week's video, since it's just about the midpoint of October and thus the midpoint of Inktober, I wanted to chat about burnout because it's something that I am quite familiar with in my daily life, but also specifically with Inktober, as I have done the challenge for 2 years in a row, and both times I nearly quit around this time because of the burnout that usually comes in. And I'm sure many of you who are participating this year are feeling it as well. So as someone who has dealt with Inktober before and with the burnout that comes with it, I wanted to share some of my biggest tips for surviving the Inktober burnout. Because I do think that I have finally found my good place with how to tackle the challenge, and this year has been going surprisingly smoothly for me despite how much other stuff I have going on as well. So third time's the charm, I suppose, but so far at least it hasn't been as much of a burden as the previous 2 years have been, and especially not as bad as last year. So I've broken down the 3 major things that I find really works for me and will hopefully help you guys out as well. So the first and most important thing, like this is where 90% of your issues will be solved, and it is routine. This is what saved me last year. A big part of the reason I was getting so stressed out for the first 2 weeks was because I had no routine in place for when I would draw and which part I would draw. But after a while, I naturally fell into a groove of doing the same things every day at the same times. And once that happened, it just sort of became a part of my life. And honestly, that is actually one of the main points that Jake Parker, the creator of Inktober, mentions about the point of this challenge. It's about creating positive drawing habits. That means making drawing every day a habit, aka part of your routine. Instead of just drawing whenever you have spare time, try to actually figure out a time or times in your day that you can set aside just for Inktober drawing. This doesn't have to be one big chunk of time either. As a matter of fact, I find it's a lot better to break up that time. It could be 15 minutes after lunch, half an hour in the evening, and then another half hour before bed. As an example, here's how my routine kind of works for this year. I do some idea thumbnailing for the day's illustration the night before going to bed. Or if not actual thumbnailing, then at least thinking and coming up with a rough concept in my head of what the next day's drawing is going to be about. Then every day at around like 6 p.m.-ish, sometimes a little earlier, sometimes a little later, I start drawing. Then, this depends on the complexity of the illustration, obviously, but usually I've finished either the sketch or the lines before I need to eat. If I had managed to finish the lines, then this is perfect because India ink, which is what I mainly use to do all my lines, needs time to dry before I can continue anyway. So after I'm finished eating and taking a short break, I come back and finish the illustration with the ink washes and whatnot. If I had only finished the sketch beforehand, then I come back to do the lines, then do some other things while waiting for it to dry, and then finish it. So in conclusion, the drawing is finished every day anywhere from around 9 to 11 p.m. It sounds really cutting it close, right? But when you break down what I did, it actually isn't, because so long as something else doesn't come up to break my routine, I can pretty much rely on the fact that I will be finished before the end of the day, and I can even roughly guess exactly when. Also note that in this routine, I included multiple breaks inside it. This is something I learned from last year. You need breaks. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes you're in the mood to just draw for 5 hours straight, 6 hours straight, 9 hours straight. I have certainly done that before, and I will admit that for a few days of Inktober this year, I have had to just do the whole thing in one sitting without a break because I wasn't able to stick to my perfectly planned routine. But that's just occasionally. It's not something that, in my experience, you can keep up with for very long without it becoming very stressful. You need to give your hand and, more importantly, your mind a break to do and think about other things. So try to find as many ways as you can to fit in small breaks into that drawing routine, because that will stave away the burnout for much longer, which leads to the next tip. how to actually deal with burnout. I think that if you're doing a daily challenge, then some burnout is going to occur eventually, no matter how perfect your routine is, because you're simply not used to it. It's a change in your daily activities, so naturally you're going to be feeling a bit tired of it at some point. And this can result in a lack of creativity and inspiration for what to draw, and just simply not wanting to do it. And to be honest, I do think that to a certain extent, you do just have to push through it if you don't want to miss a single day. Because you need to get yourself used to the fact that drawing every day is a normal part of your life. And trust me, it will happen. I'm pretty sure the majority of the people who do not make it through the whole challenge usually drop off somewhere in the first 2 weeks. Burnout seems to come in very, very quickly. I wanted to quit last year at day 12 because I just felt too burnt out. But once I reached like day 18, the burnout was not as bad. So I do feel that there is somewhat of a burnout threshold where it gets worse and worse, and then eventually you break that ceiling and it's not bad anymore. But some tips for helping you cope with the burnout while it's, there is, for one, if you have a lack of inspiration, you just don't know what to draw, then try something completely different. Try a completely different style, look at other artists for inspiration. If you've been using the exact same tools, go to the store and try a different pen or markers or ink. Just try to change things up, even if you don't know what you're doing in that field and it comes out really bad, because that will just be one day, and that experience will more often than not help keep you motivated and inspired to get better at that new thing. However, if you're doing a series, like a story or something where you just don't have the freedom to go off the wire and draw something completely crazy and different, then you probably have the opposite problem, and that is you want nothing more than to just draw something different. This is what I struggled with a lot last year. I planned every single drawing out, so I never didn't know what to draw. But all I wanted after a while was to draw something else. And this is why I am adamant on not setting yourself up for super complex illustrations that take a lot of time, because that way you'll be able to give yourself time to doodle and draw and just relax and be creative that don't relate to your Inktober project at all. That way you can get your creative juices flowing when you need to, but you can still muscle through and get your project finished. So I know it's cool. Okay, I know. The idea of having 31 epic full illustrations sounds great, but just realize your personal limits. How long does it take you to draw things? And don't commit yourself to 5 hours of illustrating every single day. Finally, and this is kind of part of the routine thing, but try to find ways where you can break down the way you draw into small tasks. As I mentioned with my routine, I tend to go thumbnail, sketch, line, shade. I treat each step in the drawing process as one task. This way I can easily manage and keep myself motivated as I complete each task. So to wrap it up, the list of tips are 1. Routine. Figure out a routine that works best for you and try to stick to it until you get used to it. But make sure to give yourself plenty of breaks. Don't commit yourself to many, many hours of drawing every day, because you won't be able to keep that up forever without losing your head if you're going for the full marathon route. Once burnout does come in, try to continue sticking to your routine, but changing up the things you do in it. Draw something different, try different techniques. Or if you have committed to a theme that you can't break, make sure that theme isn't too demanding on your time so that you will still have free time to doodle and draw unrelated things when you want to. And finally, break down the way you draw into little tasks and goals, because it is much less stressful to think about doing a thumbnail sketch than it is to doing a full-fledged illustration. And that is it. That is my list of tips for making it through Inktober as someone who has finally got it right for myself. And that is really where the emphasis is, on myself, just like you have to find your good place for yourself. I think dealing with burnout when it comes to art and art challenges is really about paying attention to your lifestyle, the way you draw, understanding your habits and limits, and finding that sweet spot where you can create a lot of cool stuff without killing yourself. And everybody is different, so it's very specific. And I do think that it takes time to figure out. It took me, 3 years to figure out how to tackle Inktober properly. But what I'm just hoping is that with these tips, you guys can know what to be focusing on and figuring out for yourselves. Finding my Inktober routine this year was at the top of my priority list when I started the challenge, and it has definitely already paid off. I've actually been pretty surprised when I just sat down and was like, hey, I've already been doing this for 14 days straight, and I'm okay. Now, how long it will last, I do not know. Maybe I still haven't gotten it perfect this year. We'll have to see how I am at the end of the challenge. But for now, there definitely has been an improvement from how I was feeling last year and the year before. And I've already managed to even write some of October's monthly story. Hey, not bad, Zaccura. Not completely procrastinating this time, just a little procrastinating. I mean, probably could have finished October's story by now if I didn't procrastinate at all, but I'm getting off topic. Y'all don't need to know about that. So I hope you guys found this video useful, and best of luck to you all as you continue on the Inktober grind. And if you haven't done the challenge before and you haven't been doing it so far this year and you want to now, just go for it. Like, you're not too late. You don't have to do all 31 days. You don't even have to do it daily or commit to anything, really. But I do recommend to any artist that if you've never participated in Inktober, to give it a try. It is honestly one of the best things I've ever done as an artist personally. It not only whips your inking skills into shape, but it really does help make art a part of your life in a very positive way. And you get to meet so many amazing and wonderful artists. I've personally made a bunch of awesome friends and fans through this challenge, and because of that community aspect, it really helps keep you inspired and to keep going, much more so than if you just decided randomly one day to draw every day for a month. And if you have done some this year and you missed a few days here and there, like, that's no problem at all. You can try to catch up if you want, but if that's too much, then just continue from today onwards and don't worry about those missed days. The important thing is that you're having fun with it. So that brings me to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. You have been watching various clips from my week 2 illustrations. Once again, I was not able to film it all, and now that I've revealed my routine, you guys know why I'm always filming when it's dark and the lighting isn't very good. But let me know which of these illustrations for this week is your favorite. I think mine would have to be day 12 because I love Whalefly. If you guys have any personal tips for surviving Inktober, feel free to leave them in the comments for others to scroll through, and I'd love to read any useful advice from my fellow artistes. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. I make new videos every week, and I'm not even going to say I usually upload on Sundays because it's Tuesday when this video goes up, and that was after saying it would be on Monday, so new videos every week, guys. If you want to follow Zig's Inktober journey, aka my Inktober journey, then you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram for daily updates. All the links to all of my social medias are linked below in the description box. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya!